Welcome to Steelmint Events. This is webinar number 24, and I deeply apologize for the late start. We are late by about 5 minutes. I hope this hasn't put anybody into inconvenience. Well, in the steel market, the prices are at 12-year highs. They're at the same level as the really very dicey year of 2008, when the great big global slowdown hit the world. However, in the long steel market, prices are at a 2.5-year high. So that's the topic of today's webinar. We are looking at the Indian long steel market, and we're looking at the short and medium term outlook for this market. So despite the really very bad sentiments in the rest of the economy, where we are looking at a GDP contraction, in the steel market, there's a lot of bullishness. All of the producers are stepping up their production, and whatever they are producing is getting gobbled up by the market. So that's where things stand. And of course, we have questions. We want to know if prices will go on up further, or will there be a correction? And what happens to all of the production that all of the steel companies are planning? So let me introduce the panelists to you. Our first panelist is Mr. Nalin Gupta. He is Managing Director of J. Kumar Infra Projects Limited. J. Kumar Infra is into the giant construction. It makes a lot of urban infrastructure and is also into transport engineering. And it has some really very big orders from DMRC and MMRDA. Our next panelist is Mr. Yogesh Mandhani. He is MD of Mahalakshmi TMT Private Limited, and he is also the president of Steel Manufacturers Association of Maharashtra. Now, his association represents 178 members, and today in this webinar, he is going to be their voice. The next panelist is Mr. Ramesh Agarwal. He is MD of Real Ispat and Power Limited. Clients of this company are Military Engineering Services, Indian Railways, and NHAI. It's an integrated steel producer. It makes a lot of steel products and also makes power, produces its power. The next panelist is Mr. Sanjay Agarwal. He's Senior Vice President of JSW Steel Limited. JSW Steel is one of the largest producers of long steel products. And Mr. Agarwal himself has put in 31 years in sales and marketing. And earlier he was with Ispat Industries, Gspl, and SAIL. The next panelist is Mr. Subhimal Sarma. He is head of sales, TMT East and South, and also cement, and also head of branding at JSPL. He is ex-Reliance and ex-Blue Star. Okay, we also have Mr. Nitish Shukul. He's Assistant General Manager. He looks at pricing, index, and content for steel at the Steelmint Group. And I'm Ruchira Singh. I'm a journalist, and I have been tracking the steel, metals, and mining industry for a while now. So I'd also like to welcome all of the people who have logged in today. We have about 315 participants. Thank you very much for registering. And I'd like to explain to you the flow of this webinar. So we first have a presentation from Nitish. He is going to bring us all up to date with all of the data, the facts, and the analysis that Steelmint has. After that, we'll have a Q&A round between myself and the panelists. That would go on for about 30 to 45 minutes. And after that, audience, it's going to be your turn to ask questions. So you could put in your questions in the Q&A box, which is down below on your screen. But do wait until much of the discussions are over so that you don't end up asking what I could have asked. And also this time I have an activity for you participants. Do write in on the chat window the one trend that you see for the oncoming fiscal year, which is FY21-22. Do tell us in one simple straight sentence, what is the one trend that you see? Of course, your trend has to be something very believable, a plausible one. And as if time permits, I'm going to pick out those trends and read them out. So let's get started. Nitish, it is over to you for your presentation.
Thank you so much, Ruchira. Good afternoon, everyone. So to begin with, I'll just set the context around the entire discussion that we are going to have. So we can begin. Right. So first, let's look at a snapshot of Indian rebar capacity and production for FY20. So these on the left-hand side, you'll see some top clients with their capacities, and on the right side, you'll also see the production figures. Now, JSW stands at around 4 million ton capacity, and the production is around 3 million ton. Likewise, for Tata, it is 2.5 million ton, and production is 2.5. For JSPL, the capacity is around 2.4 million ton, and the production is around 1.73 million ton. For SAIL, the production is around 2 million ton, and production is around 1.43 million ton. For RINL, the capacity is around 1.8 million ton and the production is around 1.4 million ton, so on and so forth. So the overall production in the country for rebar as on FY20 is around 34.56 million ton. Right. Now also let's look at the snapshot of capacity and production for wire rod. So some top clients like JSW, they have a capacity of 2 million ton against a production of 0.69 million ton. RINL stands at a capacity of 1.52 million ton against production of 0.7 million ton. SAIL stands at around 0.85 million ton capacity and production of 0.59 million ton. Tata stands at around 0.7 million ton capacity as against 0.56 million ton production. JSPL stands at around 0.6 million ton capacity and a production of 0.52 million ton. So the overall production of wire rod as on financial year 20 stands at 6.6 million ton. Yeah, so now let's also look at zone-wise summary of capacity and production of TMT. So East here is leading the charts with a total capacity of 24.45 million ton and the production stands at around 16.5 million ton. That's followed by South, in which the overall capacity is 11.22 million tons and the production is around 7 million tons, followed by West, wherein the overall capacity is 9.7 million ton and production is around 6.38 million ton, followed, and the last is North, wherein the total capacity is 4.41 million ton and the production is 2.24 million ton. The overall capacity stands at 49.78 million tons and the production is 32.29 million tons. Yeah, now let's look at the zone-wise summary for capacity and production for wire rod. So here as well, East is leading the charts with a total capacity of 5.71 million ton against production of 4.36 million tons, followed by South, which has a total capacity of 4.02 million ton and production of 1.77 million ton. That's followed by West, beg your pardon, which has a total capacity of 0.4 million ton and the production stands at 0.3 million ton. And the last is North with the total capacity at 0.22 million ton and the production at 0.16 million ton. So the overall capacity stands at 10.35 million ton as against the production of 6.59 million tons. Yeah. Right. So now we can just see the snapshot of the prices for rebar as well as which is manufactured by BF route and IF route. So now let's look at the price trend. I've divided this into two parts, which I had said earlier. One is rebar manufactured through blast furnace, and now let's look at that. We can see the price move from rupees 34,930 in Q3 FY20 to around rupees 38,800 in Jan 2020. From here onwards, the prices have gone up to around 39,900 and 40,500 in Feb and March respectively. The economy went into a lockdown in April 2020 and there was a lot of uncertainty in the market and the sentiments were low. Once the process of reopening the economy began, the market slowly picked up. We can see the price slowly picking up month on month on account of cost push because of rising iron ore prices. In the month of November, price was observed at around 43,700 ex Mumbai, which has been the ever highest this year. We also expect this trend to move upwards in the coming months. Similarly, for the rebar manufactured through induction furnace route, we can see the price at around 36,145 ex Mumbai in Jan 2020. This price was around 34,530 ex Mumbai in March 2020, which is just before the economy went into lockdown. Once the process of unlock began and the economy started to open up, we can observe the prices slowly picking up and price graph shooting up on account of higher raw material prices, which is iron ore and scrap prices. In the month of November 2020, the price was around 38,620 ex Mumbai, and we expect this to rise even further. Yeah. Indian billet export prices are hovering at 2-year high with similar levels seen in October 2018. In recent export tender hosted by a state-owned steel mill, the company has managed to achieve a price of around 475 to $480 per ton FOB India basis. The shipment is likely to be scheduled for a Southeast Asian destination. As per our understanding of the market, there are primary two reasons behind this increase in the export prices. One is the quicker delivery timeline. So while CIS and Iranian exporters happen to be floating offers for Jan and Feb 21 shipments, the tender offered quicker December 20 delivery, thereby fetching a higher price. And the second is rising global scrap prices. So on account of tight availability, imported scrap prices to Turkey increased by $50 per, month on month in nearly 9 bookings confirmed by Steelmint last week. So prices are hovering close to their highest levels in 2.5 years. Such levels, as I had said earlier, were last witnessed in 2018. So recently, we have revamped our platform and processes and made them fall in line with the global standards of price reporting by providing credible and transparent commodity price assessments backed by a robust IOSCO compliant methodology and pricing rationale. We would be more than happy to welcome you to visit Steelmint website and mobile app platform, take our demo, and share your valuable feedback with our support team. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Nitish. So that's Steelmint analysis saying that prices are really still on an upward trajectory. Let's find out what the panelists have to say. And before I start the Q&A session and look at the very first segment, which is the pricing, I'd like to tell you that the latest prices coming in, which Steelmint has with its intelligence, is that JSPL is quoting at 50,000 to 50,500 for rebars. This is FOR prices for Mumbai, 12 to 32 size. So these are the prices, really very high. And I'd like to open the Q&A round. And I'd like to request each of the panelists to give me what outlook they have for prices in this market. And let's get started with you, Mr. Gupta. Please give us a forecast of where you see prices in Q4 of this fiscal year, as well as for the next fiscal year, the early part of it. Mr. Gupta?
Yeah, so Ruchira, firstly, thanks for taking me in this panel, where it's a good forum to put our side of views. So right now, Mr. Yogesh is already like smiling, because it's like I'm about to speak. So it's like the prices have really been taken up to sky high, and it's really having an impact on the projects that's been executed, because the government has a huge amount of infrastructure works that are going on. And currently the supply, moreover with the pricing being affected in a very dramatic way as you rightly said, the prices quoted by GSPL and others are around to the tune of around 51. So along with that, even the supply has become such a big issue that all the infrastructure projects are getting a setback because of it. Though we have to use our good relations, business relations that we have been sharing with years with our friend Mr. Sanjay. and we are getting some material, but still it is not been taken care of in the right way where it has to be, because the demand post-COVID has been increased, but it has not increased in a very dramatic way that the supply should have been constrained. But as of now, well known for reasons to the our manufacturers, but right now, even though the huge projects which are coming up, without that being started, right now the supply has become a very big issue, and the prices, and my feeling about the prices specific, if you talk of, yes, it has gone up from, like if you talk of Q4 for FY20, we were at 38,000 exclusive of GST, and right now we are at 51. So the prices have gone up. These are not sustainable prices. But yes, I foresee that if these people, if this is the demand, and the demand is further going to go up in a very, very big way, because of the upcoming big projects like HSR, metro projects being operated all across the country, there is going to be a huge demand of reinforcement. So the long steel will be in huge demand, and but yes, we should see some correction is my feeling. This is a momentary thing.
Okay, thank you for that. And I'd like to tell all of the participants that we'll keep this webinar bilingual so that maximum of you take the benefit of it. English, Hindi दोनों का इस्तेमाल करेंगे. और एक बार और remind करना चाहती हूँ participants को, आप FY20, 21, 22 के जो ट्रेंड्स हैं, आप अगर कोई कुछ नया देखते हैं तो अपने चैट बॉक्स पर उसको डाल दीजिए, वहां से पढ़ के मैं सबको सुनाऊंगी. I'll pick out some clear trends that are visible. ओके, तो अब मैं चलती हूँ मिस्टर योगेश मंथानी. आप प्लीज बताइए, आपका क्या आउटलुक है प्राइसेस पे. मिस्टर गुप्ता ने कहा कि करेक्शन आ सकता है और उनको काफी दिक्कतें आ रही हैं अपने सारे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर प्रोजेक्ट्स को रोल आउट करने में. सप्लाई कंस्ट्रेंट है और प्राइसेस भी प्रॉब्लम है. मिस्टर मंथानी, प्लीज टेल अस आगे आपका क्या आउटलुक है.
To everyone, and thanks for inviting me for this webinar. And also I appreciate Mr. Gupta what he said. There are a lot of demand coming in the market. Even the infrastructure projects are being taken up by the government authorities. See, basically, if you see that due to this lockdown and due to this closure, everything was at standstill. And gradually, slowly, it has been moving, and the demand has been. But we were all aware that one sudden day the demand would have shoot up, and the same thing happened. And simultaneously, if you see at the back end, if you particularly say that the pricing factor also depends upon not only on demand supply, it's also on the supply, and the raw material which we have witnessed in last few months, the iron ore prices have gone high, and everything that has increased the prices. Definitely one factor which we all should really appreciate and see that the manufacturers who are from the MSME sector are still struggling, and they are trying to come out. See, if you see the liquidity issue, if you see the issue of the pricing, this pricing not only have hampered the production, it has also made everyone to look into the liquidity issue. See, the liquidity, if you see there is a hike of 30 to 40% in the prices. And see, suppose if I would have required like 20,000 rupees, I'm just quoting an example, 20,000 rupees to produce one single ton, but today I am requiring like almost like 27,000 rupees per ton to produce that material. So almost that hike, and that the liquidity issue. So the capacities are still to be resumed. The capacities have not been resumed. If you see the MSME sector, particularly the figure what Mr. Naveen has, Mr. Nitesh have quoted, if you see the MSME sector are still struggling and the capacities are still at 55 to 60%. So I really say that definitely there should be a correction, and the correction will be happening, but this will be with the production increase in the production capacities. What I want to say is that.
थैंक यू. मिस्टर रमेश अग्रवाल, आप क्या सोचते हैं, जो नए भाव आ रहे हैं 50,000 प्लस, आपके क्लाइंट्स इससे कंफर्टेबल रहेंगे और क्या ये आप सीलिंग देखते हैं, इसके ऊपर नहीं जाएंगे भाव? Mr. Agarwal.
First of all, thank you for inviting me on this platform. और it's a perfect subject for the present scenario. जहाँ तक आप रेट्स की बात कर रहे हैं, इसमें एक्चुअली 2-3 मेजर फैक्टर हैं कि एक तो acute shortage of iron ore in India because of the auction of iron ore block mining, And the second major issue is the international price high. इंटरनेशनल जो रेट्स हैं स्टील के, वो हम देखेंगे तो लास्ट 2-3 मंथ्स के अंदर में करीब मोर देन $100 लॉन्ग प्रोडक्ट्स में और फ्लैट प्रोडक्ट्स में से $150 तक के रेट्स बढ़े हैं. आज भी इतने ज्यादा रेट्स होने के बावजूद इंडिया में अभी भी एक्सपोर्ट की पैरिटी है और लगातार एक्सपोर्ट, ऑल्दो जरूर से एक्सपोर्ट के नंबर्स ऑफ फिगर्स की बात करेंगे तो लास्ट मंथ से थोड़ा सा रिड्यूस है, बट आज भी एक्सपोर्ट की वायबिलिटी स्टिल बनी हुई है. वायर रॉड भी हम एवरी मंथ हम एक्सपोर्ट कर रहे हैं, टीएमटी के रेट्स भी उसी हिसाब से हैं, बिलेट्स भी काफी एक्सपोर्ट हो रहे हैं. तो जब तक यदि एक्सपोर्ट की पैरिटी है, इंटरनेशनल मार्केट यदि इतना हाई है, स्क्रैप प्राइसेस वेंट अप सो हाई, सो लगता नहीं. अब इसमें हम फ्यूचर की यदि बात करते हैं तो आयरन ओर का माइनिंग का इशू इतना शॉर्ट टर्म में बहुत जल्दी अवेलेबिलिटी स्टार्ट हो जाएगा ऐसा लगता नहीं. इट विल 3-4 मंथ्स कम से कम और आएंगे कुछ स्थिति सुधरते में. और पूरा डिपेंड करता है चाइना की स्टील मार्केट पे भी कि चाइना का मेजर रोल क्या रहता है इसमें, बाइंग पे या फिर उनके रेट्स पे, क्योंकि चाइना इज 60% ऑफ मैन्युफैक्चर ऑफ ओवरऑल स्टील इन द आउट ऑफ वर्ल्ड. 900 मिलियन टन से ज्यादा अभी तक प्रोड्यूस कर चुका है इस साल. सो एज पर माय व्यू नेक्स्ट कपल ऑफ मंथ्स, मतलब अप टू 2-3 मंथ्स के अंदर ये प्राइस थोड़ा से बिकॉज ऑफ दीज 2 रीजंस प्राइस थोड़े और हाई होने चाहिए थोड़े से. आफ्टर मार्च इसमें फिर इंटरनेशनल मार्केट के ऊपर डिपेंड करने पे और आयरन और अवेलेबिलिटी के कारण शायद फिर इसमें कुछ करेक्शन हो सकता है.
Thank you. Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, are you doing business at 50,000 rupees plus for rebars? And please tell us when will GSW hike the prices further? Is another hike coming this month or next month?
Thank you, Ruchira. I will thank Steelmint for inviting me to this webinar. As Mr. Nalin has told, definitely we interact quite often as he does, I think, a lot of work in Mumbai and Delhi. And basically Mumbai, 50% of the infrastructure projects are done by J. Kumar. So definitely, yes, if I start from what was there in April and May, the scrap prices in April and May, I think you have the data already. You can correct me if I'm wrong. It was around $210 C&F Mumbai. And today it is somewhere $390 to $400 C&F Mumbai. So if you compare that, scrap prices have gone around 14,500 up for the domestic imports, for Indian imports, which is taking on. Similarly, if you take other exports also, billets, main producers has booked at $340 in May. Now they are booking at $480, as you said, maybe slightly higher also, $490. So again, there is a pull which is there, you can say, across globe. And it is because, yes, the demand across the world is there for the steel items. Similarly, iron ore, if you can see, suddenly shot up. It was at around $80-85. Now it is at around $145 internationally. And suddenly in last few days, it shot up from $130 to $145. Similarly, pellets had shot to 170 plus. So definitely all these things are impacting the cost of production, as Mr. Yogesh as well as Mr. Ramesh has indicated. So it is affecting all of us. It's not that it is not affecting all of us. So our input cost has gone up. Similarly, yes, correspondingly, the prices of the end product is also going up. Yes, there was less of lifting by the domestic users during the first 4 or 5 months of the current financial year. At that time, most of the steel companies exported as they could not stop the production. So they started exports just to keep the pace, and they were exporting at, you can say, virtually zero EBITDA levels, just to keep them running. After that, definitely the demand in the domestic market has picked up across sectors, I would say, whether you take yellow goods, whether you take white goods, whether you take auto, everywhere the demand picked up because the inventory levels with the users were at the lowest. Because of pandemic, they did not buy anything and they consumed whatever was available. So same thing, infra has also picked up in last 2 months. After laborers returned to the project site, definitely all the infra companies has picked up. There's a momentum and infusion of funds from the government side also, which has also reflected that yes, demand of rebar has shot up like anything. As far as main producers is concerned, I think they are at a level of 1 million ton sales, production and sales every month on month, at least for last 2 or 3 months. So that's the capacity they have. So virtually everyone is producing up to the capacity. I would not say that if iron ore availability improves, definitely some production which is not happening, that will improve. So that will give a little more extra of rebars in the market. Similarly, yes, the capacity addition, at least in long products in rebar segment, I don't think that it is happening. But definitely 12 million tons at that pace, 12.5 million tons of TMT production is happening by the main producers. Secondary producers is also supporting, and government is giving a thrust for their approval in various sectors. Definitely that is adding on to the availability and supply to the infra sectors. But yes, the demand is, today's situation is much more, maybe because pent-up demand has come up from the infra units as they were saddled with very low stocks, and now they want to inbuild the inventory and move on. So we see at least in next 2 months, the demand will be there from them. And then it should settle down and the normal demand should be there. As far as pricing is concerned, it is a factor of input price and the demand. That's how the things are moving up. We will not say what will happen in January or in coming days. We have to see, keep a watch, and accordingly, the companies will move on.
Are you going to make a price hike sooner than later?
I would not be able to comment on that. It is a
But if
factor
you can,
of, as I said, demand and supply and the input cost.
right, with everything looking high and upwards, do you think there's a case to hike the prices? And if you do hike the prices, when will it be? Could it be before this year ends, or will it be in the next quarter? Just give us some hints that we can work with, please.
I'll give you one example that ArcelorMittal on 4th announced 50 euro hike on HR coil prices on one day. Okay. So if you convert that, that is a 4,000 rupees hike on one day. So definitely no one can predict that how the market will behave and how the prices will behave. It's a question of demand and supply and input cost, as I said. So I'll not be able to comment on that.
Mr. Sarma, what do you think? 4,000 rupees a ton, do you think that kind of a hike can come in? And 50,000 rupees for rebars, are you doing actual trades at this rate?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. In fact, and thanks, Stillman, for giving this platform. I would almost echo the similar sentiments expressed by Agarwal Sahab. It is not that steel guys are probably enjoying the price hike, because we have been severely hit by the input cost rise also. I have just seen the numbers vis-a-vis August and November. If I look at my price increase in terms of lumps, iron ore, the price increase was almost to the tune of 2.5 times. The fines went up further. I mean, it's almost went up by 3.5 times of the prices of August level. So that has adversely affected us. I think that is primarily the reason behind this entire price hike. But definitely the demand side is good, because whatever demand was subdued for the first 4 or 5 months of lockdown, suddenly everything went up, right from the the individual house builders to the mega projects of metros and all these railways and all those bigger projects. Everything probably came up in the month of August and September, and that's where you could see there is a gap. There is a gap between demand and supply. Even today, despite all the primary producers running full steam, I mean, we are operating at 100%, 105% capacity. Despite that, we cannot supply materials to the customers on time. So this demand supply gap, input cost rise, international price sentiment, and the push from all the governments across central and state level towards construction and investment will definitely keep the sentiments high. I will not be too much diplomatic, but I still say that I still see some price hike within this month, and the prices will not stabilize unless and until there is some let up on the input cost hike, or some let up, some slowdown in the demand side. So I'm quite hopeful these things will continue. But let me again repeat, we are not enjoying this hike. We are not, I mean, it's customer perception that steel guys are increasing prices. It's not a fact. We have been hit by severe input cost price hike. That's the main cause.
And this price that I just read out, 50,000 rupees, is that really being the traded price, or is it just a quote?
I think about 1,000 rupees lesser than the market. Today, the market is somewhere hovering around 51,000 basic, plus GST. That's the kind of prices today if people are talking about.
Okay, and you see more headroom for further increases.
That's right. That's right.
Okay, I'll go back to Mr. Sanjay Agarwal. Give just one number to say what is the cap after which we will see a correction. What is a peak price that you foresee? And this is just a guesstimate.
I think the prices are definitely on the north side, and it is going to go up at least in the coming months. I'm not seeing a letdown here. And definitely, as Subimal has mentioned, we are getting orders at a better price than what number you have got. Okay. So there is the
55.
Yeah, you are no, you are said 50. I'll not disclose that number, but definitely yes, at a higher number, the demand is coming up, and the POs are there, and the buyers are there existing in the market. Nevertheless, I will mention that steel is a cyclic industry. So one has to assume that yes, there's a downturn where a steel company has to survive, and there is an upturn where they make money, definitely. And it is not that they make money for long. Okay. One factor is input cost, which is definitely there. Other factor is demand, which is coming up. And definitely, as I said, the inventory at the user end were low in all categories. They are building on the inventories. And another 2 months, we see, yes, they will build on the inventories. So demand should be good. And accordingly, the market will behave.
Mr. Mandhani, any peak price that you see, any ceiling that you see beyond which prices won't go up much, and there would be correction from that point?
Yeah, I would rather say that December would be the good. See, we expect that December there will be some more price hike. But after January, definitely.
But a number, sorry to interrupt, but can you give me a number? Will it be 55, 56, 57? What is a cap that you see?
So anything around like 5%, maybe the hike in the month of December. And then from January onward, I see that the price may probably be sustainable or may reduce to some extent.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So I'll move to the next section, which is really the demand and supply, looking at these aspects of the market. And my question is on capacity utilization. So I'll start with you, Mr. Gupta. You don't produce anything, but from all of the infrastructure projects that you're rolling out, are you working at 100% capacity, or do you think something is pulling you down? Your company is known to work at speed. You even deliver before the deadline. So are you working at 100% of your normal working schedule?
Yes, Ruchika. So, Ruchika, we are already operating almost 100% at the post after the COVID situation, I would say. So we are pre-COVID level already, and the government is starting up with new projects, and every now and then there are orders that are flowing in. So with the amount of orders that are there in the market right now, and with the order book of J. Kumar itself, like we need around 10 to 12,000 tons per month as of current position. And once this new works, which the company has taken up, the demand would further go up. So infrastructure demand is going to be there. It was there even earlier, but pricing and this demand, I don't feel there is a connection to this. This is some other reason which is better known to our friends, the main producers and our president of this association. So these are different reasons, but as far as demand is concerned, there is a huge demand for steel. And I see that further for means the entire working season, the demand would be same in or rather increasing to a reasonable extent as far as the infrastructure projects are concerned. Moreover, like HSR, which is itself a project worth more than 35,000 crores, that's also going to be started. So with the amount of works like MTHL, if you talk of works in and around Mumbai, so just in this one, only in Maharashtra, or rather more Bombay centric only, if you try to see the coastal road projects, even the coastal road has been given go ahead and it's going on in full swing. Your Bombay Nagpur Expressway, though the quantity would be comparatively much lesser, but again your MTHL, your metro projects, flyovers. So there is ample amount of works. So the demand in any condition should not come down, as Mr. Ramesh Agarwal was mentioning, that it's also due to the situation of Chinese export situation. So that may be an aspect as regards to pricing to some extent. But Indian demand is not going, you won't see a downside, is my feeling.
Okay, great. So infrastructure is working at 100%. Mr. Yogesh Mandhani, MSMEs, are they producing also at the similar rate? I believe MSMEs have a problem. Capacity utilization is not optimal.
Yeah.
What are you seeing amongst all of your members?
See, basically, MSME sector are moreover into an induction furnace route. Their route of manufacturing, or their producing the TMT bars or the whatever the round bars or the long product is through the billet from induction furnace. So basically, I would like to share something. This is regarding like the current utilization capacity of induction furnace based billet. See, there is a worldwide trend to increase the steel production using scrap as the main raw material, as the recycling of scrap helps in conversion of vital natural resources beside other numerous benefits. The use of every ton of scrap shall save 1.1 ton of iron ore, 630 kg of cooking coal and 55 kg of limestone. There shall be a considerable saving in specific energy consumption also, as the same will reduce from around 14 mg per kg to BF or BOF route to less than 11 mg kg in EF or IF route. There is a saving in energy by 16 to 17% if you go by induction furnace route. It also reduces the water consumption and GHG emission by 40% and 58% respectively. Thus, the demand of steel scrap has increased considerably in the past global from 367 million ton in 2000 to 589 million ton in 2017 and up to 800 million ton in 2019. To produce 6 RS principles of reduce, reuse, recycle, recover, redesign and remanufacture through scientific handling, processing and disposal of all types of recyclable scrap, including non-ferrous scrap, through authorized centers, facilities, Government of India declared a steel scrap recycling policy. This will help in promoting the induction furnace based secondary steel sector. Particularly, I want to say that the MSME sector are so-called secondary steel sectors which are going through this route. So there is a lot of scope where we can produce the good quality of material by using all this scrap, and even the government is promoting for this. So the capacities which are being unutilized can be utilized, and we can supply a good quantum of material to the required industries or the required sectors.
So the 178 members of your association, at what capacity utilization are they functioning right now? That is what I'm trying to find out.
55 to 60%.
55 to 60%, yeah. Right. Mr. Ramesh Agarwal, capacity utilization.
We are manufacturing 100%, we are running 100% utilization capacity. And in terms of मैं छत्तीसगढ़ की बात करूँ या उड़ीसा की बात करूँ, यहाँ पे जो ईस्टर्न बेल्ट है, सो मोर और लेस यहाँ पे कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइजेशन लगभग सभी का है, क्योंकि ओवरऑल जो यहाँ पे रॉ मटेरियल है, जो बेसिक रॉ मटेरियल जो मिलना चाहिए, आयरन ओर या पैलेट, तो दोनों की अवेलेबिलिटी आयरन ओर की बिकॉज ऑफ एनएमडीसी यहाँ पे छत्तीसगढ़ में है, उससे कुछ हद तक हो जाता है। कुछ उड़ीसा से जो आयरन ओर आते थे उसमें एक्यूट शॉर्टेज है, बट पैलेट जो एक है वो यहाँ पे सप्लाई है। ऑल्दो प्राइसेस वेंट वेरी वेरी हाई बिकॉज ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट एंड ऑल, बट अवेलेबिलिटी अभी तक है। बिकॉज ऑफ नॉन अवेलेबिलिटी अभी तक प्लांट बंद नहीं हुए हैं, एंड जो रेट्स है वो रॉकेट हाई जा चुके हैं, एंड फर्दर आई सी अराउंड 2000 प्लस फ्रॉम हियर। सो कैपेसिटी यूटिलाइजेशन आई थिंक सभी मैक्सिमम करना चाहेंगे।
Great. Okay. And Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, we had a webinar just last week in which there was representation from GSW, and we got the capacity utilization figure to be around 90-95%. So I will just want to know from you, for particularly for steel longs, what is the capacity utilization now and what will it be in the quarters ahead?
I think it's around that only as far as overall basket for the company goes. So whatever we are losing, it's account of iron ore shortage, the 10%. We hope that we will be able to get more iron ore in coming months so that we touch 100%. As far as company is concerned, we are ready for that production. So there is no challenge on that account. Definitely, yes, in longs, there was a slight issue of iron ore shortage, which is reflecting. Maybe in rebars, maybe 10-20,000 tons more production can be achieved if that issue is resolved.
Right. And you also have a new unit coming up, which is going to produce 1.2 million tons of wire rods. When will this start coming into the market?
No, that has already started in October. And incidentally, in November, we supplied around 20,000 tons out of that mill to the market. And this month, the plan is around 40,000 tons to be supplied to the market. And we are ramping it up. And by financial year end, I think we should be in a very good shape to give a lot of wire rods to the Indian industry in the market. So
Okay,
we are okay with that. Yeah.
Okay, it should be good news for Mr. Gupta. More supplies coming in. That's what you want to hear right now. Moving on to Mr. Sarma, please tell us at GSPL, capacity utilization. Again, we got an update. I think it was in the zone of 80-90%. But what is the capacity utilization now? And what is it likely to be in the next quarter?
Yeah, so last month, whatever figure you said was correct, probably around 80-90%. But this month, all the 3 units that we have are running full blast. And we are targeting anything between 2 to 2.5 or 2.25 lakh ton of TMT this particular month. So this particular month and going forward, I think if the demand permits us, we should be running 100% capacity of TMT.
Okay. All right. Next question is on the inventories. Are you sitting on any kind of inventories? This is a question for all of the producers. Are inventories there? I mean, logically, I shouldn't be asking you this question because demand is so high, but still, Mr. Sanjay Agarwal?
As far as long products is concerned, no, we are not having much of inventories.
Same.
The traditional norm is 30 days for a healthy
inventory? Traditional norm is 15 days for JSW, not 30 days. But definitely we are much lower than that today.
I would say at least as far as we are aware, it has been told that it is 0.
Well, Mr. Yogesh Mandhani,
it's a negative
inventories.
Negative inventories.
Negative inventories, which means you have orders and you have to fill them up. And Mr. Ramesh Agarwal, you said
no inventories at all. We have sufficient orders now.
And at GSPL, what is the scenario, please?
Same, we are running below the norms, definitely in the inventory side, but we are still servicing orders at least with a reasonable time frame. The only thing that happens sometimes is that we run out of one particular SKU. Otherwise we have the stock to service orders, but no extra inventory, definitely.
I see. All right. Okay. So I'll move to the next segment, which is the export and import of materials. So again, I would speak to you, Mr. Sarma, on this. How much of allocation do you have for exports? You have been active in the market. You have been extremely active in the market. So what kind of allocations do you have for billet products?
See, basically during the lockdown time, yes, we are quite active because that's what Agarwal Sahab also pointed out, that we did not have domestic demand. So to keep the furnace running, we had to export a lot. But in the background of good demand from domestic, including long and flat both, even flat is also doing reasonably well. The export has definitely come down. I think today we have come down to almost 50% of what we used to do during lockdown time. The domestic focus will remain the key focus for us definitely for next 4 months, including this particular month.
Okay, and I'd like to ask Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, this export trend, do you see this coming back into the market? The high exports, particularly of long products, billets. I think you are in this market. Do you see export allocations for billets?
No, JSW currently is not exporting any billet or rebar into the world market. No. So we are focusing on domestic 100% for these particular categories.
Could you look at exports of billets? The trend changes so
No,
quickly that
I don't think.
I have
I
to
don't
ask.
think till March we'll look at exports for this category. Incidentally, as a company, also we have shifted more to domestic now, and we reduced the exports.
Mr. Ramesh Agarwal, you are active in the export market. You have a regular consignment sales to Nepal of
Yeah,
wire rods.
yeah,
Can you share
we are
your
exporting.
experience?
Yeah, we are exporting every month to Nepal and some little quantity of nearby countries, and prices has gone the same trend like domestic as well as same the international.
Okay. Okay, I have a question for Mr. Yogesh Mandhani. You and your members import a lot of scrap. So what is the trend here? Is this market coming back to normal after, the COVID-related slowdown globally?
Yeah, definitely the scrap import have been stabilized now. But definitely, and one more thing is that the price of the scrap in the international market have jumped too high. Turkey is into a huge demand of scrap, and other few parts of European countries also started consuming the scrap. So that if you see the trend, the scrap is into an increasing trend, and the import of scrap, what previously was, and right now it is almost like 30 to 40% of the price have been gone up. So still the imports are there, a huge number of import.
And what kind of a price forecast do you have for the scrap market, Mr.
See,
Mandhani?
yeah, basically, I am very bullish on like December month would be on a higher side, but after January, the import of scrap would be at a lower side.
So you see more material starting to come
Yeah,
in
yeah,
after January,
yeah,
and that could have a bear pressure on
yeah.
this market. Okay, before I move on to the next set of questions, I will just quickly read up one input from Param Saxena, which has come into my chat box, giving the trend for the new fiscal year. He is saying that oil prices are going up steadily now, and the global economy is gradually opening up from COVID. So I see improved demand for steel, and accordingly, prices should improve. So there you go. That is one bullish view coming from one of the participants. All right, Nitish, at this point, do you have any questions?
Yeah, thanks, Ruchira. I have a question for Mr. Gupta. So what are the key government projects in the coming few months that you see are going to play a critical role in, as far as the demand is concerned?
Well, Nitish, here I would say especially the metro projects, which is the key one of the vital importance important project that has been recognized by the government to give relief to the Mumbaikars, and accordingly the projects of Metro Line 2, Metro Line 7, 9, 6, 4, they are on full swing, and it's a it's one of the most important projects for them, as well as the ongoing MTHL and metro projects, as well as the coastal projects. If you look at these projects itself, like they are all EPC projects. There is no issues in terms of payments. So it's a cash-rich project, and that's how even the payment cycle, the cash flow is maintained in a very good way. So I think these will be the projects which will be having an impact as far as if we talk of a localized city. Again, at a national level, if you see all across the cities, metro projects, let it be Delhi, let it be Ahmedabad, let it be Noida, let it be any place, Bangalore, Chennai, everywhere the projects are in proper swing. And also NHAI with the N number of projects that's going on. Like we have bagged 2 orders of Dwarka Expressway, which is more than, which is close to around 4,000 crores. That's also that's a structural work. So at a pan-India level, if you see, the demand is pretty high. And I think it shall continue for the entire year.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Do you also see Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana playing a major part in ramping up the demand?
Well, I would say that's more towards the road area. So because of that, in roads, the demand is not so high, though there is a combination of some elevated structures as well in it. But on a major scale, if we see 70-80% of the area is roads, where there is no component of steel, and it would be just like a couple of percentages less than 10. So I think that wouldn't be a big impact on it. But already to boom up the Indian economy, I think the state as well as central government, infrastructure being the second largest employment generation sector, the government is pumping in every now and then with new projects. And because of the urbanization and the civilization shifting towards urbanization, there is no other option but to build the infrastructure that's available in urban cities. So that's how the demand for public transport, let it be flyovers, let it be metros, is ramping up pretty high. And I think that's going to continue. And it's further going to be strong. Maybe there may be some policies for anti-export that the government will have to come up, because the prices are going pretty high. There is a big problem in supply chain, which will surely, we are already in talks with the government to have some policy for exports. Like during the COVID times, there was a policy which was been implemented that no export of textiles is possible till Indian consumption is taken care of. So right now there are situations because the contractors, all contractors have started complaining to the government departments, to the clients, that we are not getting the supply. So how do you expect us to execute this project, even up at such high ramped up prices? If there is no supply, then there has to be some action to be taken by the government. Some corrective measures are required. So that's my feeling about it.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nitish. Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, are you looking at imports of iron ore, since you say there's a shortage, and you also have iron ore mines, but possibly the supply is not adequate enough looking at the demand? But are you looking at importing of iron ore or any other, unfinished steel?
No, I don't think so. Basically, what happened that, yes, we bagged iron ores in Odisha. It took us time to start those minings and to ramp it up. We are now trying to ramp it up, and we will utilize our own mines to source the raw material, because we have a commitment to, I think, a certain percentage to mine every year, and accordingly the royalty has to, or the premium has to go to government. So we'll ramp our own production, and that will be used in our plants. So there will not be any import. No. And incidentally, we are not exporting now anything. Pellets, 100% we are selling in the domestic market, so that the shortage is mitigated for the other users.
And what about you, Mr. Sarma? Are you also not looking at the foreign markets to import any iron ore?
Not at all, because all the plants that we have are on the eastern side of the country, where we have plenty of supply. So as such, sourcing iron ore is not an issue. The issue is only the price of iron ore. That's the only question. So currently, I'm not looking at any imports of iron ore. We'll source it domestically only.
Okay. All right. So are we looking at any kind of, export restrictions on iron ore and also on steel? What have you heard in your interactions with possibly the government? Can anybody tell me? It has been in air for some time that there might be some restrictions on exports of iron ore, and even people are even talking of a ban, and also of steel. So do you think that is possible, that your export option might be restricted? Mr. Ramesh Agarwal, could you answer this question?
Yeah, actually, we, the secondary steel producers, actually the manufacturers, the integrated steel plant, there is a huge shortage of the iron ore or iron ore fines or the pellets. And huge quantity of pellets were exporting to the China and the nearby countries. So यदि इंडिया में यदि ये एक डिमांड लगातार होती आई है कि यदि इंडिया में जब इतना शॉर्टेज है, ऑलरेडी इतने ये हैं, तो उसके बावजूद यदि यहाँ से पैलेट या फिर आयरन और फाइंस का यदि एक्सपोर्ट होता है, तो वो अननेसेसरी वहां से फिनिश बन के वापस इंडिया में आता है. तो इसको यदि करते हैं, यहाँ पे फिनिश बनता है, तो फिनिश को ही यदि एक्सपोर्ट करते हैं, तो गवर्नमेंट को जो टैक्स जो मिलना चाहिए वो गवर्नमेंट को टैक्स भी मिलता है, और डोमेस्टिक जो स्टील प्रोड्यूसर्स हैं उनको एक रॉ मटेरियल की अवेलेबिलिटी मिलती है. इंडिया इज ए कंट्री जहाँ पे आयरन ओर है, कोल है, दोनों चीज बहुत अच्छी क्वांटिटी में है. आयरन ओर का एक अभी थोड़ा सा शॉर्ट टर्म एक अवेलेबिलिटी का है कि माइंस के ऑक्शंस हुई, नई माइंस है, जैसे कि संजय जी ने भी बताया कि उसमें थोड़ा सा डिले हो रहा है माइंस स्टार्ट होने में सभी के. एक बार होता है तो कोल एंड आयरन ओर दोनों यहाँ पे काफी है, और यदि हम यहाँ पे एक्सपोर्ट को थोड़ा सा डिमोरलाइज करते हैं तो यहाँ पे हम चीपेस्ट स्टील इन द वर्ल्ड हम यहाँ पे बना सकते हैं इंडिया में. सो एक ये लगातार डिमांड होती आई है कि पैलेट के एक्सपोर्ट को कम किया जाए या उसमें एक्सपोर्ट ड्यूटीज ज्यादा की जाए या जो भी है, सो कि डोमेस्टिक जो प्रोड्यूसर्स हैं उनको एक माइलेज या उनको अवेलेबिलिटी मिलनी चाहिए. और स्टील मिनिस्टर ने, इवन ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर ने भी 15 अगस्त की अपनी स्पीच में फ्रॉम लाल किला उन्होंने भी बोला था इस चीज को कि यहाँ पे पैलेट का जो एक्सपोर्ट है वो मतलब उसमें हम देखेंगे. और अभी रिसेंटली 15-20 डेज बिफोर इन्होंने जो धर्मेंद्र प्रधान जी जो हैं स्टील मिनिस्टर, उन्होंने भी इस चीज को रिपीट किया था कि विल लुकिंग फॉर दिस सम लिमिटेशन ऑफ एक्सपोर्टिंग ऑफ pellet or iron furnace.
Okay, so one more observation coming in from one of the participants. It's another bullish view. Deo Ghatak is saying, with decrease in home loan interest rates at these rates being at all-time low, real estate industry will further go up. So that's another bullish view coming in from the participants. All right, I have a question for you, Mr. Nalin Gupta. The government is hard pressed for cash, and just the other day I read a story saying that it is asking all its ministries to curb their spending. So do you think the infrastructure projects might actually suffer because of this? Do you see this coming? Because all COVID related expenses will now have to be dealt with. There would be a vaccine expenditure. So do you think some kind of slow expenditure from the government might be coming in the quarters ahead?
Well, Ruchira, I would like to put my view on this question would be that, all the projects that we are talking of right now, which are in pipeline, they are all on EPC mode. In EPC projects, the money is earmarked for that particular project. Moreover, the like out of the entire order book of J Kumar, which is close to like around 11,000 crores, our 57% of our order book comes in only from metro sector. In metros, the projects are already well financed. Already the financial closures has been done for them. Either it is state and central government money, or it is, and some of them are been funded by World Bank, JICA, and other international banks. So because of that the shortage of money for the infrastructure projects, I do not see so. And for the, I would also just like to add that the demand, the export point that you were just mentioning about, the export point also depends on whether it is by main producer or by the secondary producers. Like for our infra jobs, the reinforcement, whether it is longs or flats, both the materials are required from the main producers and not from secondary manufacturers. So because of that, the export of secondary market does not bother in a big way for infrastructure projects as far as it bothers when it happens through main producers, or either the government has to allow secondary producers who are making good quality long products as well as flats to be allowed to come into the infra segment.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. I'll move on to Mr. Sarma. You make a lot of rail products. So can you tell us about this market? It's a pretty niche product. So can you tell us if Indian Railways is going to spend more as per plans and therefore, buy your rail products?
Yeah, I was about when Mr. Gupta was talking about metros, I just thought that I should probably, chip in and talk about rails. See, last year we did produce almost 1.3 lakh ton of rails. And this is, I'm talking about all the track rails. And if I talk about the supplies to Indian Railway itself, in fact, if you got they got it wrong, the Indian Railway supply was itself 1.3 lakh. And if I add RVVNL supply also, it adds to another 1.15. So almost 2.5, 2.4 lakh ton of rails we supplied in the Indian Railway segment itself. We also exported a lot of rails. We have a very unique product, which is head-hardened rails. These head-hardened rails is basically used for all the metro projects. And we have already supplied one consignment to Kolkata Metro, and we are actively pursuing other metro projects. This is the product which only Gspl manufacturers in this country. No one makes head-hardened rails even today. It's one of the best product from Gspl basket. We are putting all our efforts to expand the market, and people like Jay Kumar, if can help us, I think it's a product we'd like to focus more and grow this business to why even lakh. We should probably talk about millions now.
How is the export market for rails at this point?
See, we exported some quantity to Iran and Bangladesh in the current fiscal, and the same problem remains in rails also. The capacity that I can produce and the demand that we have in the domestic market is actually more in comparison to the capacity we have today. And if we can sell to metro projects, if I can sell to Indian Railway or allied railway projects, I think our capacity will be completely utilized. If there is any surplus capacity, yes, definitely we'll look at the export markets, but our key focus will remain Indian Railway and Indian railway projects.
Okay, all right. So I'm going to start taking questions now from the audience, and I have one here from Mukul Kalra. This one is directed at Mr. Sanjay Agarwal. Mukul Kalra is saying, since JSW has started new wire rod mill, does this mean dumping of more wire rods in Indian market? And could this cool down the prices a bit? Do you think the volumes, Mr. Agarwal, are high enough to cool down the prices?
I think I'll take it like this, like Nitish has shown, the capacities and the capacity utilization in wire rod segment. Okay, so he has said that the market is around 6.5 million tons for wire rod, and definitely with 1.2 million tons of wire rod coming in from JSW, I think we should be able to supply to the demand what Indian industry has today. So there was no wire rod mill which was put up by anybody, at least in last 2 years. I think last was at ISCO Burnpur, which was added on by Steel Authority. And the market for wire rod is growing by 10% a year. And definitely we will look at getting the market share out of this wire rod mill in the domestic market. I don't think that there will be dumping of the material into the domestic market. Market is growing, and I'm not seeing any other investment, at least as of now, which is coming up and will be added on at least in next 2-3 years. So we are okay with that, and definitely we'll supply all grades of material and sizes from 5.5 to 25 in the domestic market.
Next question is from Mr. Rajesh G. Nair. He's saying a question to all the manufacturers is, what is the stock of the raw materials that they have? So if you're saying inventories are, lower than the norm and almost at zero, what about the raw material supplies? How is the inventory for that? Starting from you, maybe Mr. Sharma.
I think that is too wider for us to comment right now, because TMT is only one product of the entire basket. And I think all the main producers, TMT is probably 10%, 5% or 11% of the entire product basket. Since you're running all the plants, including plates and coils, wire rod, TMT, we have enough raw material. So for TMT perspective, raw material availability is not an issue as of date. That's my view.
And what about at GSW? How are the stocks of iron ore, coking coal? Are they at healthy levels?
As far as I mentioned, iron ore, it will be coming from our own mines. We are trying to ramp it up. And maybe in a couple of months, we should get 100% from our own mines. And the dependency on other sources will reduce. So we are trying to ramp it up and see that, yes, we get our requirement of iron ore from the domestic market. No imports as of now for the iron ore. Coking coal, as you know, 100% is imported from Australia by all the companies. So definitely that will depend on the imports and the prices thereon. So I am not seeing anything on a negative side for the iron ore. Yes, there might be hiccups for a few days or once in a while at some of the plants because of maybe low iron ore stocks or maybe because of the transit delays.
Okay. Okay, there's one question from an anonymous attendee, and this person is saying all the panel members just said there's no inventory, but as per our information, the inventory in secondary steel producers are very high, especially in Raipur. So can you throw some more light on this? So is there a play for, speculators in the market? Do people actually hold vast amounts of steel products and play the market? Mr. Mandhani, do people store and wait for prices to go up?
No, at the manufacturing level, it's very difficult. But maybe at a trader level or at a stockist level, there may be a chance where people may have a stock and they may play with the pricing and wait for the good pricing to get. But at the manufacturer level, no, I don't believe in this.
You would need a vast amount of storage space, won't you? Like warehouses to do such a thing.
Yeah.
As far as concern of Raipur, this question is related to Raipur. I am from Raipur.
Yes.
I would like to say something. I don't think so. Any inventory, any kind built in steel. I don't think so कि कोई भी inventory किसी भी steel manufacturers के पास है. Finish में तो बिल्कुल भी नहीं है. Raw material में definitely करीब around 30 days की inventory जरूर रखनी पड़ती है. So that's a normal phenomenon. That's it.
Okay.
Because of price and stock करके उसको price rise होगा और उसमें future में होगा. I don't think so कि there is any stock balance in the for any.
Similar question is there from Manoj Arora. He's saying, is there any rule of speculative trading also? Can anybody deny there's a cartel of big manufacturers? Mr. Gupta, what do you think? What have you seen? Have you seen people who hoard and create some kind of an artificial shortage?
See, here means though we have a regular fights with these friends from JSPL and JSW, but yes, this is some sort of carteling for sure. It is happening, is my view. But that's because of the high demand that's happening all over with the infrastructure works. But I would surely for the holding of the material, I do not believe much in it because there is huge amount of space that's required as well as working capital that gets blocked in holding back the material. So, and with the companies with such high moral values who have been associated, and we have been doing business for more than 2 decades now. So I don't expect holding back of material should not be the point by the manufacturers, as Yogesh has already mentioned, because it may be done by traders. for speculation of the prices. So I agree with Yogesh. But with respect to pricing, carteling, I think there are certain things which are better unsaid, because our friends and the market is quite smart enough to understand why the prices are going up. So I wouldn't really put my exact words to it, but the industry is smart enough. That's all I would like to say.
Okay. Murugesan Subbu Ram is asking, all that you see in the steel market is because of stimulus packages announced by the various governments, or real global economic growth? Well, his question, he's from Madurai. His question is on the stimulus packages that have been announced, big ones after the lockdown, and how do they impact all of you? You know, the representatives from MSMEs and also the big producers. So let's pose this question to Mr. Mamdhani. Stimulus packages, have they helped?
See, the stimulus package announced by our Prime Minister, the package have helped, but not to a larger or a mass population or mass industries. To few of them it have helped, but moreover to very small units, it has not helped to a large extent. And for those whom it has helped, they are showing good results. But some of us who are untouched or who are been not benefited by this are really suffering and struggling for this. We as a MSME have all sort of industries, a larger one, a smaller one, and a micro one also. So there are segments in our MSMEs also, and definitely everyone has not been helped by this package.
Any representation to the government from your association asking for more packages, especially targeted at MSMEs?
We have made n number of requisitions and representation. To more extent, what representation our MSME sector is always putting forward to the government is that the use of the secondary steel, as Mr. Nalin Gupta already said, that if secondary steel is allowed to for the government projects and for the use of this project. See, we secondary steel producers, since from decades, are and with a lot of improvements and a lot of technology driven factors have improved our quality. And really, we have been producing like 0.5 million tons. Some of our industries are producing 0.5 million tons, 0.25 million tons with a upgraded technology. So secondary steel sector, we are already in lot of dialogues, lot of discussion with the ministries that our secondary steel should be allowed to the government projects, so that the main producers के ऊपर जितना burden है वो burden कम होए और Mr. नवीन गुप्ता जैसे लोगों को हमारा भी material जाए. Thank you.
Thank you. Another question is from Deepak Agarwal.
Addition to the panelist is to my friend manufacturers, like, if you manufacturers start buying out the scrap from the infra contractors because the scrap coming out of this entire manufacturing is to the tune of around, on an average, say 5%. So at least the 5% requirement of the steel which is brought from the main producers, if it is given back to you, so that would also help in a way for the control of the iron ore shortage or whatever the reasons you feel so. And the prices which are going up, if you buy in directly from the contractors, that will also have a win-win situations for the contractors as well as the manufacturers, I feel. Yeah, so terms of arrangement can be done for this, because we are buying thousands of tons of steel every month. And also in this similar fashion, at least 5% of that comes out back. So that can be bought by the companies.
Yeah, it could be a give and take. Nice suggestion.
Right. Yes, yes, that might be the need of the hour, greater recycling, so that all of the, the raw material problem is sorted. So I hope this gives a fillip to all of the recycling policies of the government. Quite a lot is really on their plate, and they can indeed do something. Okay, next question is from Vishal Dwivedi. He's asking, when do you see the government auctioning more iron ore blocks? Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, do you have any buzz from the government on this? When do we see more iron ore block auctions?
Ruchira, I will not be able to comment on that because that is looked after by the separate team. But yes, whenever it is there, we will welcome that and like to have a look at it.
Okay. Rahul Jain from Systematics is asking, is export duty on iron ore required? By keeping prices low, are we discouraging investments in the sector and creating problems for future availability? Mr. Sarma, what do you think? It's, well, really, it's a statement that Rahul Jain is making, that despite, you don't really need export duties, you're curbing the new investments into this sector. What do you have to say?
I think, Ruchira, this is more to do it a temporary issue. I think it has nothing to do with a long term. I mean, the steel industry has seen so many up cycles and down cycles. This is probably, we are sitting in a very small, small period up cycle. And moment there is a balance between demand and supply, the prices will stabilize. That is for sure. And I mean, fair competition and fair prices, I think it should be a fair policy to all, including the customers, including the steel producers. And any restriction will probably unnecessarily put pressure on the domestic guys. I think the entire steel commodity is being traded on parity basis with import landed, and that has been going on for so many years. So I think that will still continue. That's my personal opinion, in fact.
Amit Kumar is asking, is current steel price rally majorly because of supply side constraints? Once the supply gets restored, how do you see demand the next 2 to 3 months? So in the next 2 to 3 months, we'll be close to the March month, which is the year closing month. How is typically the demand at that time? Mr. Sarma, can you answer that question, please?
I think the bigger issues right now, not the main producers, because main producers, as both of us has told you, we are all operating at 100% capacity. Where I think the capacity is getting constrained is in the secondary segment. This is the fragmented capacity across the country. Those mills have not been able to utilize 100% capacity. If they can, if there's an enabler, or they can probably improve the capacity to say 60, 70, 80%, the part of the supply situation will improve definitely. And I'm again repeating, this is a pent-up demand that we had for last 4 or 5 months of lockdown. This will taper off. I'm not saying on absolute terms it is going to be down, but there will be still some projects coming up. The demand will definitely go up. But the kind of spike that we saw is basically because of the pent-up demand that we had for last 4 or 5 months of lockdown. I think it should improve in next 3 or 4 months of time.
Okay, Nilesh Vishnu is asking, can we expect the prices to cool down once the iron ore and coking coal prices come down? What other parameters should we look at before the price drops? Mr. Nalin Gupta, what are the kind of indicators that you keep your eye on to see which way the prices are headed?
Can you come back with your question?
So there's this question from Nilesh saying that other than coking coal and iron ore prices, what are the other indicators that we look at which will give us a hint that the market has cooled off and now prices will come down? So what are some of the things that you look at every day to give you an idea about which way steel prices are headed?
Well, I would say it's exports and the domestic demand is one of the key factors, because as Mr. Sanjay ji was just mentioning, like we have buyers at 51. So if you have buyers, means there is a demand. So you keep increasing, like, we did a deal with JSW, JSPL, with SR, everybody we placing orders because the demand is pretty high. So I think right now the current demand is having an impact on the prices. If people are not willing to buy at 51, all the companies, they have no other choice but to get down the prices. But right now the demand and the shortage that has been created, or is the fact, whatever way it is, and the demand for the infra projects are going in day in, day out. So that's one of the strong reasons I think If there is no demand from people, automatically the prices have to come down. There is no other option.
Here's another one again for you, Mr. Gupta. This is from Deepayan Ghor. And this person is saying the infra projects which panelists are talking about in particular are the state government funded or central government funded projects. Some of the state governments are quite tight in terms of fiscal space. So are fresh orders coming from state governments, or are these old projects for which demand for long products has increased post the unlock phase?
Well, I would say it is both ways, because there are new projects that's also coming up. Like J. Kumar, we have backed recently an order of this, what do you call, Shivdi connector that we have taken, which is 1100 crores. We are L1 in Metro Line 2B, which is 1400 crore, which is just a week back. So there are new projects which are coming up continuously. There are furthermore good number of projects for which the company has bidded, and it's not across just Mumbai or north or west. I would say it is all across the country. There are reasonable amount of projects which the government is pumping. As I mentioned earlier, that infrastructure sector is the second largest generator of employment, and it's not only employment but also a chain effect, because one infrastructure project would have a chain effect in terms of mining, in terms of whether it is production cycles, manufacturing, aggregates, cement, steel, admixtures, chemicals, machineries. Every automotive industry, every industry gets a a chain effect, and it works as a booster. So this effect, the government, it's not a choice, I would rather say. It's even if you see this recession of 2010, where government started pumping in more and more infrastructure projects. So as COVID expenditure is on one side, also the economy to be taken care is on the other side. So I don't see any shortfall as regards to that. And the state governments, the demand which is there is right now from the ongoing projects. As Mr. Sanjay already mentioned, that we were at a setback, and for 1 quarter, there was no demand. So right now we are at pre-COVID levels, where the labors are in place, the projects are running. So the demand of the ongoing projects itself is pretty high, and which are going to be added on top due to the new ones that the companies are bagging in.
Okay. Here's another one from an anonymous person saying, what is the timeline for Gspl for starting the Gwali iron ore mine in Odisha? Mr. Sarma?
I think again, this is something which is beyond my scope. I mean, I'm basically sales and marketing. I will not be able to comment on iron ore. I will have to skip this question.
Okay, no problem. I have a question on technology, the role of technology in the long products market. Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, is JSW doing any kind of R&D on improving the products? And followed by that, Mr. Nalin Gupta, I'd like to also know from you, since the big modern projects that you build, do they need new kinds of tech savvy products to help you build better? So firstly, Mr. Sanjay Agarwal, role of technology in long products.
Yeah, Ruchira, I'm glad that this question has come up. Definitely, yes, in JSW, we are looking for better steel in every category. If we talk of TMT or rebar, definitely we would like to graduate to a higher strength material. And we are looking to graduate from Fe500 to Fe550D or Fe600 and beyond. Our mills are capable of producing that. And incidentally, we have shifted to Fe550D as far as our production is concerned. So we intend to produce that in masses and propagate that particular material, so that as a infrastructure EPC contractor, they can save on steel and get a benefit out of it. Okay. As far as Fe600 is concerned, Fe600D is not a part of BIS as of now. We will be propagating that with BIS, and incidentally, we are taking up with BIS to include that in the approved list of specs. And we are supplying that category of material for 2 bridges as of now. One is at Brahmaputra River, and another is at Goa Zuari Bridge. So there Fe600D CRS equivalent to that material is getting used, which is being supplied by us. So we are looking for more projects where all infra companies can design, can use this material and do a saving for the steel. We are looking at that. Similarly, in wire rod, definitely our mills and technology are latest. And we, yes, believe that the product which we give into the market is one of the best available in the country.
Mr. Nalin Gupta, do you have any complaints about the supplies that come in? You know, that do you think more investments need to go into newer technology for you to build those giant projects?
Well, as far as means infrastructure is concerned, we at J. Kumar, we always believe in going in with the best technologies available across the world. Like J. Kumar, for all these erection projects, for the erection of this metro works and flyovers, we have been buying the latest machineries that can do much faster works, whether it is launching girders, whether, and also like J. Kumar, we are among the first to get the first straddle carrier in India, which is going to do the erection, where the amount of time required for assembly of a crane, erection of it, and then demobilizing the crane gets totally wiped off, and we can do double the amount of job with the same machinery and with a much safer way. So we have got that, and we are going to commission it very soon. As well as we have tried to opt for more and more of precasting, which is the need of the time for a urban construction. There is, though it is a work of high precision and technically challenging, but if you have a hands-on grip on it, I think precasting is the need of the time, because that involves less labors at the site level, which is having more safer working environment instead of working on greater heights, and you can do the precasting in your yards, which will involve less cost, less time, and it's a more precise job. So we have opted precasting in all the metro projects, and almost the entire precast, the entire station has been made precast. So precasting using more and more mechanized methods to do the labor, the works which were totally labor oriented. We have tried to do it more and more mechanized by making self-supporting structures, by using heavy capacity cranes, which can reduce the timeline of the project and which can be less labor oriented. So
what about the material that you get? Sorry to interrupt, but what about the material that you're getting, you know, the steel long products? Are they high-tech enough for you, or do you think there is something lacking, that innovations need to come in steel long products?
As Sanjay ji has already mentioned, that we have been using steel, which has been right now also Fe 550 that they are making. The designers are still designing it with the lower capacity quality, which has been the traditional way. But now we have tried to use 550, and as they have come up with 600, I think that's good enough. Whereas in case of the TMTs are concerned. So I think that's pretty good for us as of now.
Okay, thank you. Okay,
so I'll just take half a minute on this. I mean, just to add to it, Gspl has been the largest Fe 550 supplier. I mean, 550D supplier, in fact. I mean, whatever we sell, by default, we make only Fe 550D, nothing else. If somebody requests us, then only sometimes we make small quantity of 500D. What Mr. Gupta has said is correct. Despite being the largest supplier in this country, despite all the push from our side, even today the designers are still designing the buildings on Fe 500D.
Very right.
I mean, the amount of money that you save on steel, amount of money that you save on the structure itself, the structure can be lighter, is huge. Secondly, we have also invested money in setting up our own cut and bend facility. We have 3 facilities. We have one at Angul, one at Ranchi, Patratu, and second at Raigarh. These 3 units put together can supply almost 10,000, 15,000 of cut and bend even today. We also have Wellmesh as a value-added supplier. And lastly, what we have done in the eastern side, that is the 5 states of eastern side, Orissa, Jharkhand, Bihar, West Bengal. These states, we have now couple the offer of TMT with cement. So he said that any counter that sells TMT, Panther TMT will also sell Panther cement. So try to make a lot of kind of value addition in terms of supply chain also. And we also have good capacity of supplying U-band from our own plant. I mean, on the supply side, on the packaging side, we are investing a lot and hope the customers take full benefit of it.
Okay, thank you. So we'll take the last couple of questions, and I have one here on rural demand, which we haven't discussed. It is coming from Mr. R.K. Singhal, who is ex-SAIL. So what is the rural demand like? Mr. Mandhani, can you speak about this, please? So rural demand primarily would be talking about construction, steel, the housing construction perhaps, and infrastructure also.
Yeah, post-COVID, if we see, the rural demand have grown up. See, the agriculture segment has shown a good result. The Kharif season in the rural has been very good. Farmers have got a good crop. So anyway, we are finding, see, our sector is basically more into rural than urban. So our sector is finding a good response from the rural areas. There is a demand, and see, basically the demand is for the housing sector. In rural, there are a lot of housing projects coming up. After this COVID, everyone wants to live into a very comfort and good place. So many people who have been shifted from the urban areas to the rural areas, so they have made their investments in these rural areas. So we have seen a good response after COVID in this rural area, and our steel is going very well in this region.
Okay, thank you. And anybody else? Mr. Sarma, would you like to add to that? What are you seeing in the rural market?
Yeah, I was traveling in the eastern part for almost 12 days. First traveling in Bihar, West Bengal, and Jharkhand. And what he said is absolutely correct. The rural demand in terms of housing construction has gone up substantially. The Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana has kicked off a lot of investment now. With the backdrop of goods crops that they have, I think this is a segment which is to be watched on. I mean, next 3-4 months of demand will also be driven by this rural housing segment. I think I'm completely bullish on this particular aspect.
Thank you very much. So I would like to actually close it now. I think most of the questions coming in the Q&A box are obsessing over prices. So that is on top of everybody's minds. So prices and supplies, it is affecting almost every part of the market. And I'd like to say thank you to all of the panelists. Thank you very much for participating with us today and for sparing your wonderful time. Well, the pointers that I have got is that prices are toppish. They could go up further, but yes, there could be some kind of softening later. And in the new fiscal year, there could be many other trends that you could be seeing. So thank you very much, panelists, and thank you very much, participants. So I'd like to tell the participants that an edited, recorded version of this webinar will be published on YouTube. So you could look out for that. And do look out for more such webinars to be put out by the Steelman Group. And on behalf of the Steelman Group, I'd like to say thanks to everyone once again and have a really good year ending. Thank you.
Thank you, teacher.
You may now leave the meeting.
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.